So the bullet from these two guns, this is the 5.56 223. I believe they're the same. I don't know that to be a fact. I can tell you that this is 5.56 by 45. And this is an AK bullet, which is 7.62 by 39, which is why, well, the steel case is why it sticks to my magnet, but stop it. As we found out earlier, this Tula ammo is actually bimetal iron or steel iron projectile, which I knew that the this other ammo I had from Azerbaijan was bimetal iron steel projectile ammo, but I didn't think for a second this tool ammo from Russia, the projectile was actually bimetal iron steel. Anyway, as you can see, I mean, these two cartridges are just, they are just so similar to one another, similar looking, I mean, they're almost dead on as far as height goes. They are almost dead on to one another. So that's the rear end. But, the actual projectile on the 5.56 is only a 55 grain bullet, and the 7.62 by 39 is 122 to 124 grain. This particular round is 122 grain weight bullet. And yeah, if you don't know, grain actually consists of the weight of the actual projectile. It doesn't have anything to do with the grain content of the charge of black powder within the casing. It has to do, I know, it's counterintuitive, but that's what it has to do with. Grain is actually the weight of the bullet. It doesn't have anything to do with the grain content of the black powder or anything of the sort. Grain is the weight of the actual bullet. Don't ask me why, that's just what it means. So anyway, so this bullet, kind of got sidetracked, sorry. This bullet, the 5.56, it being lighter weight, actually has a higher velocity than the 7.62 by 39. This bullet is actually heavier, so it has more mass but less velocity. So, however, how one, acts, this one, when it hits a target, I mean, it is totally different from what this one does when it hits a target. This one, fractures into maybe a dozen pieces or half a dozen pieces and almost instantly dumps all of its energy into the target. I mean, it's actually kind of scary how devastating this 5.56 round is to tissue. Because it just immediately splits up and it just dumps all of its energy right into the tissue, resulting in huge tissue damage. I mean, this thing just grenades into, into the tissue. And this is just a regular ass copper jacket FMJ, right? This isn't even a hollow point. And this normal, regular plinking round is devastating to a flesh and blood target. I can't even begin to tell you how lethal this 5.56 round is to a flesh and blood target. I mean, the comparison is just, I mean, they are comparable to each other, but the effect one has versus the other, I mean, it's kind of like night and day. This one, you have just, when you enter your target, you have just devastated everything surrounding the entry wound that's tissue, because this thing just grenades inside of the target and just, I mean, causes massive fragmentation and just dumps all of its energy within a few inches, I would say, of entry. It just dumps all of its energy. This round is, I mean, it's almost beyond belief. But this round acts very different. This round, it will go in a target and it'll go through that target, and then it'll go through the target behind it, and it will go. After that, it may start to keyhole and tumble, and then possibly even go through all the way through the target behind it. So this round, you have to be kind of careful, with your targeting and be very aware of what's behind your target. Whereas this, I mean, you shoot somebody with just a regular FMJ, and I mean, it's like shooting somebody with a hollow point, basically. I mean, this round is just so crazy how it just dumps all of its energy. Even though it's just a full metal jacket, it's like designed to fragment. I don't know. It's just I mean, for as far as like penetration goes, this is the bullet you're gonna want to use. If your target is behind something, this is going to be the more effective round. If you need to penetrate, a barrier to reach your target, this is probably going to be the round. But this 5.56 round, 5.56 by 45 is just, it's so much more deadly upon entry of a flesh and blood target or a simulated tissue target. If you ever seen this thing shoot like a watermelon, you would be amazed. This it just passes right through it. It just passes right through it, right? Hardly any damage whatsoever. It'll just go in, go out, and on its merry way. It will probably go through, I don't know, 4 or 5 watermelons in a row. You know, it might start keyholing, but it'll go through. It has, some extreme penetration properties. This one will not make it past the first one. It will just dump all of its energy into that first watermelon and just blow it apart completely from the inside out. It'll just blow it apart. So you can imagine that being a headshot. Imagine it being almost any part of the body, and it's just so devastating. I mean, and yeah, they're wanting me to take my business elsewhere with this round, for some damn reason, when they are so very similar. So very similar, you know. I just really don't understand it. Why they're turning me away at the door when I bring in my AK. Granted, I mean, I don't necessarily have a traditional. Well, this one isn't a traditional AK, but I honestly only have brought this one out with me when I've tried to go to the range so far. Um, I I have this AK as well, which is a BFT 47. But I would have to lug around 2 AKs at that point. I mean, if you're not gonna accept me with this, you're not. You're probably not gonna accept me with that anyway. Just because it has wood furniture as opposed to all blacked out Magpul furniture. I mean, I don't I don't really see that making any difference. It might. It might. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just. I don't know. I don't go into a shooting range wearing like all camo or having some kind of ridiculous, ammo that doesn't have any name or anything on it. I go in with branded ammo, tool ammo or the ammo you saw me with earlier. I don't just go in someplace with, you know, some kind of questionable, bogus, no-name ammo. It's not how it works. I go in to these places and they're still like, well, we can't let you shoot that in here. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. I can't explain it. I've even called the head and they would suggest that I try somewhere else because they wouldn't let me enter their place to actually shoot my gun if it's an AK. Unless it is soft point ammunition. They have an explicit ban on it. It's like, as I was trying to explain earlier, it might have something to do with the content of the projectile, the ammo, like I was telling you in the earlier video, how the actual projectile, is containing an amount of iron steel. To make it, high enough content where you can actually pick it up with its own weight with a magnet. I mean, so I guess I can see what they're saying because steel is going to penetrate far, more than copper because it's a lot, harder than copper is. This 5.56 round. This 5.56 round, of course, has a brass jacket and doesn't respond at all to the magnet. Which, as I showed you earlier, the ammo that I have as well, the Igman ammo, I have also did not respond to the magnet. But regardless, they would not let me shoot anything that was FMJ. It had to be a soft tip lead point ammo. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Because that stuff is way more expensive than FMJ. Way less available. Yada, yada, yada. All that stuff. It's just, it's frustrating to me because, yeah, this is Texas, and there's not really a whole lot of spots that I know where you can just drive out, and, go and unload. There isn't many places where you're going to go that you can go and not get the police called on you. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, most of the time you need to know someone. You need to know someone that has his own private land, the people aren't just going to call the cops on you. And, I've heard stories of people saying that, just because the guy was shooting an AK or whatever, they claimed that their windows were shot out. And I heard that the guy saw him drive by, right? He saw their vehicle drive by, and they came back claiming that their windows were shot out. Just because the guy had an AK. And we're talking they were several miles away from where he was shooting at. I mean, I just don't believe that. I just really cannot believe that. There's just, I don't know. I mean, it's not, as good as the 7.62 by 39 is. It's not a 308. It's not a 30-06. I mean, it's not a 7.62 by 51 or a 7.62 by 54. It's just not as powerful, So, be that as it may, it is still a powerful round. But, like I was trying to explain, it will penetrate. It will not just simply dump all of its energy into its target all at once, which makes this actually the more deadly round, if you ask me. If you ask me, you get a small hole from this, or this grenade's inside you, and it can take your head clean off. If you hit a solid target. Obviously, this is what I believe this is what President Trump was shot at with, but it hit his ear, allegedly, which was not a solid target. So when it comes to something like that, they probably both would have done similar damage, but this one is the penetrating round. This one, if it hits a solid target, it's going to dump all of its energy and completely annihilate the target. So, do what you will with that information. I'm not, a complete gun expert, but that's my take on the whole thing.